Hey everybody, Jason here. I just figured out who is Joe, and let me just say, you don't want to know. What the? I have been ordered to make a video about VR? Signed Joe. If I don't want to die, then don't ever mention him again. And make a 14-minute video talking about VR. Shit, that's it. VR. Everybody's dream of the future. VR has been known around the world as the next generation. But to me, it's just another gimmick in the gaming history. Now, back in the day, VR was actually a prototype thing that was made in the 60s, late 60s, by a bunch of idiots at a school called Harvard. It's probably one of the dumbest schools in the United States, but I don't know. But basically, they came up with this. It was kind of like the things that you go to the doctor and you see be like A, F, faggot, you know, that stuff. And so they took that idea and they magnified it and put it onto a screen. And it was like you were there. It was like, I'm here. And it was cool. And then around the 80s, things started getting cool. You could actually make screens that small, came the Game Boy. And so then we get to the beginning of VR and gaming. Now let me just say that I technically only own 2 of the VRs that I'm going to be talking about. But that does not mean I will not give my opinions on the other VRs. And also may I mention that we're going to be rating these with the Spoon 107 scale of greatness, aka just a scale through 1 through 5 on how good it was. I'm also going to be ranking only video game versions. So no freaking and the phones are included, by the way. So that means no freaking 1960s, no freaking anything. If the VR is not related to gaming or does not have games on it, we don't count it. Nintendo in the 90s was like, we need to innovate. So what did they do? VR.
You better stop!
That's it? Yeah, this looks like something I'd make in 3rd grade and I'd put on a piece of paper and say, this is what I'm gonna make someday. It is just not what you wanna see. If you were to tell me that this was going to be our future, I'd kick you in the butt. I don't even know where to begin. This is fucking disgusting. Yeah, this thing was disgusting. It kind of looks like it was rushed. It also flopped hard, not even making 1 million sales. And for Nintendo being the fucking video game god at the time, poof, that was a big major flop. It was actually almost what was beginning of what's known as the Nintendo downfall, where they just started not being in first place for anything anymore. It screwed up Nintendo, but it didn't screw up Nintendo as bad as somebody else. The Virtual Boy, which I can't even believe that's what they named it, was meant to be a virtual reality that was based off of the Game Boy. Hint, boy. It had 16 games in the US and about 21, 22 games in Japan. And they were not good. The screen color was red because they needed to cut costs. So they decided to pick one color. Not black, not white, not green like the Game Boy. That kind of worked a little bit. Red. Blood red, fucking disgusting red. The worst red they could have picked. This thing flopped hard for one reason. Lack of games. And then there's also a bonus reason. It was in fucking red. Yeah, so when you have something like this, Nintendo was ahead of their time. Was it the right step? No. Did it give people ideas? Maybe. We don't know. Now, I'd rate the Virtual Boy 2 out of 5 for it being ahead of its time, and with them having the hardware. I think if Nintendo would have done something like that during like the Wii U era, it maybe would have been a better option, but they did it just way too early. And so, unfortunately, only a 2 out of 5. The next VR comes in 2007. And oh boy, I gotta get up for this one. Oh yes, the plug and play. Now technically the version that I just showed was actually not the version that was created in 2006, but the first ever one of these known two-man was in 2006, so that's where I'm going to post it. Basically, these were kind of like plug-and-play consoles. Basically, you put your phone or you put your iPod or whatever you had, you put it in there, you put it on, and you'd watch it. The problem is that these things are really cheaply made, and you can get them for about 20 bucks at Walmart in the toy section, so they're not really worth it. It is just a monstrosity looking at this thing. It is like... bleh. This was going to be our future, and we were closer. We were getting closer. But, no. So, 0.5 out of 5. This Oculus, not Oculus Rift, the successor to the Oculus, which came out in 2016. We'll get to that in a minute. We're talking about Oculus. Now, hey, post-editing Jason here. I just wanted to say that it actually was called the Oculus Rift as well as the one that I get into later, but the one that I talk about later is the Oculus Rift S. This is what's known as the Oculus Rift DK1. It came out around 2012. I thought it was just called the Oculus, but it actually was the Oculus Rift as well. So, yeah, sorry about that. Now, Oculus was basically a Kickstarter project in 2012 when Kickstarter was kind of just getting big. And basically what happened was it almost flopped. Yeah, it got about 101%, and that was last minute. Somebody donated a lot of money or something like that. It was a huge deal. Was kind of a dust collector, and once they started getting out games, this Oculus barely could even handle them. And also, I've heard that it's pretty lackluster, just like the one we saw just before, the mobile phone one. So, I would actually rate this one, since it was actually the first successful VR. I'm gonna rate this one 4 out of 5, just because of its innovation, and because it actually was successful, unlike the other two. The HTC Vive. If I were to describe this in one sentence, I'd actually have this old man here describe it as follows.
Well, I lived through World War II and we had gas masks.
Big success. Basically, from the numbers that have been shown, it has sold around 7 million, and these companies don't like to be, like, they don't like to give out their numbers that often. But from what I've heard, it got about 7 million, 8 million around there. It's not that much, but it's a lot more than the other ones. It was a very big success. So was Oculus Rift, which we're going to get into. But since this is still supported to this day and has so many games and has so many indie games, it was just, there's so much support for it everywhere on the PC. These things, I'm honestly going to rate this. I'm going to rate this a 4.5 out of 5. This is almost as close to perfect as you can get. The HTC Vive is very, very good. Oculus Rift, probably the most known VR. Oculus Rift is a very cool VR. It came out and it was an instant success. It was just mega success. They haven't really given their numbers, but from what I've read, maybe I'm wrong, it was around 10 million or something like that, and it was very successful. Also, this had pretty much support for everything, just like the HTC Vive. It had support for every fucking game on the PC, pretty much. You wanted to play your game, just unlike the HTC Vive, you could use this as just like, if you wanted to just look through it. If you wanted to just look through the screen, you could use it for that reason. There were so many things you could do with the Oculus Rift. It was pretty much the same as the HTC Vive, but it was just a little bit better. So this, 5 out of 5. It is the perfect one so far, and you know what? It deserves it. And the Oculus Rift so far is probably the best. I'm just going to say that now. Even these next ones don't compete to it. But Oculus has gotten so big and has made VR so big because of this. So, thank you to another successor that came out around the same year. This guy. Let me just say that the PlayStation VR is worth it if you have a PlayStation. But if you already have a very nice PC, the PlayStation VR is just as much as the Oculus Rift, so I'd recommend just getting the Oculus Rift. Now, the PlayStation VR has sold about 5 million units. It's successful, but it's not as successful as the other people on the list, but it is still a very hit with like a lot of people. Also, I have one of these and I actually prefer it, but that's just because I don't have a PC that can run Oculus and all that stuff. So yeah, I prefer it. And now the only problems with this is the only downfall this has is Sony's exclusivity deal. And also, another bonus factoid about this is since the PS4 is a limited hardware and can only be set at max, you can only have max settings, unlike with the PC, you can have just settings to the fucking ultra fucking sick mode, you know? The PS4 actually has a cap on the settings, so a lot of the games have to be downgraded, such as games not working as well, and also games looking a lot worse. Not only that, but also with Sony's exclusivity deal and games like Beat Saber, you can't download more songs. You can only get the songs that are in there. Now they have had mixes, those things that you can purchase, those little things that you can purchase. But the problem with those is that they cost money, while a lot of the songs you can just get for free if you already own an Oculus and you own it on Steam. Also, not only that, but with the hardware, it just was all around the board not good. Not only that, but I forgot to mention the final worst point that almost basically killed this, and that was the PlayStation Move. The PlayStation Move was a PS3 thing that was kind of used to combat the Wii. Basically, it had motion controls, and it was actually the most advanced motion controls out of the three. It was better than the Wii U, it was better than the Kinect, it was better than the Wii. The Wii Remote had okay motion controls, and the PlayStation Move had very good motion controls. Now, there is better hardware, like the Joy-Cons nowadays. They have super good motion control, almost accurate to what your hands do. And so, the problem with this is they're using a 2010 PlayStation Move. Because, see, Sony thought this was going to be a big success, like the Wii Remote. So they started making a shitload, and then they only sold about, like, 1/10 of what they made. So, to combat that, they started putting the PlayStation Moves into sets with the PlayStation VR. Not only that, but also the new PlayStation Moves that are being made are still being made with the same hardware, which means there's no hardware upgrade in these Move controllers, which means you're using 2010 technology to play super hot Beat Saber, all those games. Not only that, but also since PlayStation is so exclusive, you can't use any third-party controllers. Not only that, but also you can't get indie games because Sony has to approve all the games unless Sony comes to you. So games like Minecraft VR, you're not going to be able to get. So all in all and around the board, the PlayStation VR is not as worth as the Oculus. Now, if you do not have a good computer or don't have a computer at all, and you have the money to spend on this, I'd recommend either saving up to get a computer, or if you really want a VR, like at that moment, get a PlayStation VR. It works just as well as the Oculus, a little bit worse, and you're still gonna have a good time with the PSVR. I think they should cut the price though, and if they do make a PSVR 2, my only complaint with that, because the hardware is going to be better at least, it's going to be almost compatible with the PC, so there's nothing to do with that. The only problem that I want them to fix if they make a PSVR 2 would definitely be having new Move controllers, or having a new controller in general. Or else, this is one of the greatest ones out there. It actually works quite well for it being a PlayStation thing and being hooked up to a 2013 console. So, all in all, PSVR is okay. If I were to rate this, I would rate this sucker a 3.5 out of 5. It doesn't reach that 4.0 mark, but because of all the problems it has, but it still works so well that I can't give it a 3, so almost a 4. It is still a very good alternative to the Oculus Rift. Moving on to the final one that I don't have is the Oculus Odyssey, something like Oculus something, Oculus Way Home, Oculus something. It came out just this recently in May 21st of 2019, somehow I remember the day, but I don't remember the name, and basically it is Oculus, except no wires. So it's actually better than the Oculus Rift, except that there has been known that the headset does die a lot quicker, so that's one of the complaints. Not only that, but also, this new Oculus, it's just crazy. It's really expensive, and I mean, it's actually sold pretty well. Since it's only October as of me making this video, because I take forever to edit these fucking things, as it's only October, they have sold almost 2 million consoles. And they're VRs. That's freaking nuts. That is just insane. Now, I know people have been waiting for this for a while, but I mean, Jesus, that's insane. So, I'm going to give that one a 4 out of 5, just because the battery, or the thing dies really quickly, and or else it's just an Oculus without a cord, though. So, it's not as good as the actual Oculus Rift, but it's pretty good. So, I think that concludes our VR. It was a fun ride, and oh shit. Yeah, we forgot about the Nintendo Labo kit. The Nintendo Labo kit, basically, it was just cardboard for $50, $60, something like that. All it was is it's literally you're paying $60 for cardboard that you put together, you put your Switch in, and about the only use it has is Super Mario Odyssey. Nintendo, you haven't made it above the 3, a 2.5. That's the best I'll give this. Almost exactly like the Virtual Boy. I can't see it giving it any higher, as it basically has no use, and it's literally just cardboard. It's literally just one of these, but even cheaper made. Now, don't get me wrong, it does work, and the Odyssey VR is okay, but or else there's no use. So what's the point? Nintendo, make a good VR.
Greetings, people of March 2010. Kevin Butler here, coming to you from the future. That's right, all the way from November 2010. Arrival of the future of gaming, the PlayStation Move, which has been an incredible success.